8:42 Central African time, and we're going to be switching gears now to hashtag Africa Focus. This is a part of the show where we focus on the greater continent of Africa, some of the pressing key issues that you need to know about, the current affairs that are currently playing out in the dynamics of the continent. And the focus today is South Sudan. With more than a decade after South Sudan gained its independence, there were hopes of lasting peace. But on the contrary, the country is once again gripped by conflict and instability. Since the earlier part of this year, there's been renewed fighting between government and opposition forces, which has displaced over 100,000 people and has cut off vital aid routes and worsened what is an already dire humanitarian situation in the South Sudan. There's been a cholera outbreak. There's severe food insecurity that's soaring, and aid agencies are also blocked from responding effectively to this humanitarian crisis of proportions that deserve a lot of attention. And we'll be now joined from Juba, the capital of South Sudan, by brother Manyuon. He's Manyuon Mayen-Manyoun. He's a South Sudan-based journalist. He's a writer. He's an editor and essayist. And we want to get some, first-hand response to what's currently happening in South Sudan. What is the lived reality of the people, and ultimately, why isn't there more attention that is focused on South Sudan and what's happening in that part of the world? And Brother Manyuon is joining us via a virtual platform. Manyuon, thank you so much for joining us live from South Sudan. Really appreciate you giving us your time. Good morning.
Very good morning, my brother, and thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure's all ours. I think we can kickstart the conversation with what's currently happening right now on the ground in South Sudan. We are reading of an exodus. Around 100,000 people that have been displaced. There's talks of severe food shortages. There's been a cholera outbreak earlier in the year. Can you just paint a picture for our listeners and our viewers about the true lived realities of the people of South Sudan?
Yeah, thank you so much, Salam Radio, for this wonderful platform for me to touch base with you on the situation in South Sudan. Within 2025 alone, beginning from the month of February, the greater Upper Nile of South Sudan, one of the regions here in the country, has been experiencing a significant conflict, leading to mass displacement. Like you quoted, government agencies have been saying that over 130,000 people have been displaced. And at the same time, there is there put insecurity and coupled with cholera outbreak. At the moment, not too long ago, the aid agencies have been issuing warnings of the dire humanitarian situation in most of the conflict affected the countries. And if we are to talk basically like the 40% of the nearly 1.7 million put insecure people in South Sudan are in the Greater Upper Nile, and this is one of the biggest regions. And you see that there's likely to be the influx of the disease outbreak because there would be no intervention. You find that the poverty would continue to escalate because the aid agencies which have been providing the humanitarian assistances may not be in position now to provide simply because of the recent cut in the by the USAID. Most of the organizations which were funded by the United States Agency for Development have ceased operations, and basically most of them have been supporting the Greater Upper Nile, the particular region that I mentioned. So, and on the other hand, like recently, there was there was an there was an armed clashes between the government forces and the opposition groups led by the White Army in a place called Nasser. So alone in Nasser, Ulang and Mayut counties, as well as in Longachuk, about 80,000 civilians have been displaced. They've gone to the borders of Ethiopia, and some of them risk going to the borders of Sudan because they have no any other option, and most of them might have also gone to other states in the country. So if you look at this kind of situation, then you will realize that the people are suffering here, and it is already adding to the it is adding to the already fragile situation that the country have been seeing for the last few times since the year began. I know the revitalized peace agreement, the 2018 peace accord, has been holding, but within this year alone, I think number of a number of violations have been recorded, and this is not healthy to the already being implemented peace agreement. Thank you.
Mm. Mm, mm. You touched on something which is very, very important. The dynamics in what's causing essentially this humanitarian crisis that's unfolding in Sudan, and the main players thereof. You have the South Sudan's People's Defense Force, and you have local militias, like you mentioned, the White Army. How are these players, shaping this crisis? I mean, there's also the CPLA. LO, if I'm not mistaken. Just for now, just looking at how they're interacting with each other, how would you say they are shaping this crisis that's currently unfolding in South Sudan?
Yeah, technically, in the country here, you may get to realize that much of much of the crisis always come as a result of propagation. In our country, a lot of people have invested in propaganda, and whenever anything is taking place, and then it could be further rumored, and also because of such rumors, it could grow into potential conflict or maybe violent at the end of the day. So the conflict in Nasser started as some sort of misunderstanding between the South Sudan People's Defense Forces, the SSPDF, and the White Army that was alleged to be under command of the past vice president, who is now under the house arrest. And because of the words exchange which has been ongoing among themselves, I think it resulted to conflict at the end of the day. So the 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 other thing which is also which has also been worsening this is the fact that these particular militias, they have the arms, and
Mm,
also it is very hard for forces with arms sometimes to dialogue without physical confrontation. So like in this regard, then you see that they aggressively engage in physical violence because of the fact that they have the arms, and the other thing is the fact that you know when there is an exchange kind of word with a lot of allegation, then you find that someone is going uh, to to conflict that he doesn't understand at the end of the day.
Mm, mm. I want to focus on the transitional government and what do you make of their response? They were established, I think it was in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. It was January, February 2020. We've seen, I think, around four extensions of that transitional government. From your analysis, what or how would you assess the response of the transitional government and the efforts at de-escalation of the violence that has been taking place in the country over what 5 years now since it has been established?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the last submission, generally the Battlized peace agreement on the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan has been holding among the signatories, the key signatories of the peace accord. Since 2018, the country has been really, you know, one. The country has been in a position of gaining durable stability, but because all the political parties have been working, trying to implement like the agreement, especially the security arrangement, as well as other provisions it's stipulated in the document. But of course, there have been some minor violations, which became really rampant within the 2025, and one would question himself or herself that why is this happening again now, when already the parties to the revitalized peace accord have been implementing the agreement in letter and the spirit. So this is something that really beats people's understanding, because many people has not envisioned this kind of conflict coming, and also like the arrest of the past vice president, because he is the sole uh, signatory to the peace agreement. So, having said this, then you, you 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 know it is very hard to understand what might have transpired among themselves, and the country was preparing for the elections.
Mm,
So, in the actual sense, one would say that maybe there have been no political will among themselves, which they have been trying to cover, and given that he, like it is now like it was out of hand, so they had to bring it out publicly in forms of the violation of the
All right, we seem to have lost Manyuon. He's currently in Juba, and I think we were at the latter part of our conversation. But I think, as you can expect, the network not being that great. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for now, regarding what's happening in South Sudan. And my thing for me is this is essentially a humanitarian crisis that's unfolding. Almost 165,000 people that have been displaced in South Sudan. And what's concerning is the countries that are surrounding South Sudan by themselves are not stable in any sense of the word. I mean, you can hear Manyuon saying, much of those 165,000 people are heading over to the border with Sudan. We know the situation in Sudan and what's currently happening, and the civil war that's unfolding in that part of the world. And there's a feeling that South Sudan itself is again teetering on the verge of sliding back into a full-scale civil war. Mignon mentioned that there seems to be effort of relative peace, but there's concerning incidences that are happening. Most notable is at the beginning of the previous month, May, if I'm not mistaken. There was that hospital bombing. I think it was at the old Fangak city. It was a hospital, an MSF hospital. Doctors Without Borders, if I'm not mistaken, and that hospital was bombed, and there was about 8 people, 7 or 8 people that unfortunately lost their lives in that situation. And it's little things like that that make you wonder or not South Sudan could potentially be on the verge of sliding back into a full scale civil war. And those signs are really, really concerning. And another thing that's really concerning is this feeling of the global community seemingly abandoning South Sudan. You know, the UN, regional bodies like IGAD, the response has not been that great. You really hear about South Sudan and what's happening in that part of the world on the news, but there's a huge problem, and they essentially don't have anywhere else to go because, as I mentioned, the countries that border South Sudan themselves are not at the greatest. We know about what's happening in Sudan, also a country that's dealing with its own issues. You have Ethiopia to the east of South Sudan, and that's also not going that great. The situation, the Tigray region, and the unrest that is in that part of the world. Maybe if you head east to Kenya, Uganda, maybe that's where there's relative peace. But those countries economically are not the strongest. And you know, when you head south of South Sudan, you obviously have the DRC. South Africans know about you know what's happening in that part of the world more than anyone. The instability there, and when you head out southeast of Sudan, South Sudan, if I'm not mistaken, the Central African Republic, and yeah, that region, that east central region of the continent is not the best at the current moment, and one only wonders what this future holds for the people of South Sudan, and why isn't there eyes and ears and attention and appeals and coverage about the humanitarian crisis that's unfolding there? I mean, outbreak of cholera in 2025. I know South Africa is Hamaskral, and we know what happened in that part of the world, but this was a full blown out outbreak of cholera through the entire country. It's concerning, man. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll begin the second hour of the show with another story, which is very interesting. It's one that has sparked headlines throughout the weekend, and it's hashtag eyes on the Madeline, the Freedom Flotilla that has been seized. 12 activists currently in captivity, essentially kidnapped by the IDF after they raided the Madeline. And one of the people that have been captured is Hussein Ordu. He's a Turkish Freedom Flotilla volunteer. He was aboard the Madeline. He makes up part of the 12 that have been kidnapped by the IDF. And we'll be speaking to his sister, Hussein Suabu Ordu, who'll be giving us insight on the latest that they're gathering. Are, you know, those that are in the captivity of the IDF in safe hands? Are they alive? When will they be released? On what grounds have they even been captured on? Because there's no crime that has been created here. They were sailing with good intentions to make their way to Gaza to deliver much needed aid to the people of Gaza, and they were arrested. There were drones hovering above their heads, and they were held at gunpoint and harassed and abused, essentially. And to a large extent, that was expected, from the IDF. But seeing it play out in real time, I mean, it was what on Monday morning. The team were literally up at 3 a.m. trying to get live updates on what's currently happening out at sea regarding the Madeline, and it was like you could write the script, so predictable from the IDF. So when we come back, we'll be speaking to Sumaira Ordu, the sister of Hussein Ordu, one of the people that have been captured, one of the 12 that have been captured by the IDF, and she'll be giving us the latest on that front. Stay tuned to News and Views. We'll see you after this.